My cousin once stayed with a guy who cheated on her twice. And I remember thinking she had completely lost her mind. So the first time she found messages on his phone and he ended up apologizing and they stayed together. It was about a year later, it happened again, and I actually asked her, why are you still with him? And she told me, because people make mistakes. I said, twice? You said you've never hurt anybody more than once? And I remember that annoyed me because obviously those two things aren't even remotely equivalent. So I said, how do you even trust him now? And she said, I don't think you stop loving someone because they disappoint you. Now, if I were writing her as a character, right here is where I would be tempted to interfere because I wanted her to leave. So I'd probably start helping her toward the conclusion that I want her to reach. I'd have her admit to a friend that she knows the relationship is already over. I'd start leaving little signs that underneath she already understands what I understand. But my cousin wasn't doing any of that. She genuinely believed that loving someone means staying when they disappoint you. And once I stopped trying to make that belief reasonable to me, all of her decisions are completely understandable. So of course she forgave him. Of course she defends him when people criticize him. And so of course every new betrayal just becomes something that needs to be worked through rather than evidence that she needs to leave. And writers, this is where some of your characters are going flat. You're giving them beliefs you don't actually allow them to believe. You write somebody naive, but you make them suspicious when you would start becoming suspicious. You're writing someone who is cruel, but then you are softening it because you don't want them to seem too cruel. You write someone who is deeply loyal, and then you let them walk away when you think that loyalty becomes stupid. And so eventually every character gets the same invisible boundary, which is your boundaries. But a story is not asking, what do I think this person should do? It's asking, given what this character has lived through and believes, what would they actually do? And sometimes that answer should frustrate you. Because imagine the fictional version of my cousin who discovers that he's cheated a third time. The interesting question is not, is she going to finally realize that cheating is wrong? Because she already knows it's wrong. I think the infinitely more interesting question is, how much can reality take from her before she has to reconsider what love requires from a person? And maybe it breaks. Maybe it becomes stronger. Maybe protecting it costs her something so enormous. But I have to let her sincerely believe that first. Your job is not to make every character eventually agree with you. Let them believe something so strongly enough that they have to worry if they're going to survive that belief collapsing.